Okay, so I went to school when I was 7, and I sit in a desk that was identical as any other kid. And then I got expectations that were identical for any other kid. And there were 2 boxes, good kids and a bad kids. And luckily, I fall into good kids category. But still, my favorite books when I was growing up were books about people that were different. Because somehow I felt different. And the books were very popular. So I was not the only one feeling different. When I was 40, I came to know that I have ADHD. So now I have a name and an other category for people. And some people say that these diagnoses are not very well because they put people in boxes. But I think that it's better to have more than 2 boxes. Because when I was growing up, there were just 2 boxes, good kids and bad kids. And even if you got into the good kids box, you still may feel different. And you still may need to work to remove yourself and be what others expect you to be. So I am very glad that now there are people that embrace differences between people and teach other people how to make people that are a little bit different feel comfortable, feel welcomed, and be themselves. So I am very, very glad to give you Anita that do exactly that thing.
Thank you, Beata. That's a nice story. Okay. Around 10, 15 years ago, one of my best friends came to me and said that he has ADHD. Similar story. And I was very shocked because he didn't fit the stereotype I had back in the days about people with ADHD. And my stereotype was hyperactive kids who cannot sit still, who are all the time talking, disturbing. You name it, the stereotypes, I had them all. And my friend didn't fit with those stereotypes. He was a rather quiet person, very still. He would be able to have very long discussions with everybody. He would be listening. And I'm like, how can you have ADHD? That doesn't make sense for me. But as a curious person, I started asking him questions. And the more I asked, the more I realized how little I knew. Turns out there are 3 different types of ADHD. And the stereotypes most of us have is about one of the types, people who are hyperactive. But the other 2 still have some difficulties in life, but they're not as hyperactive, which is why we might not know about them. And now when I think about my friend, I realize why he has ADHD, because I'm able to realize, to notice the symptoms. 5 years later, one of my other best friends came to me and said that she has autism. And again, I was very surprised. She was also the first female I knew who has autism. And I'm like, that doesn't fit my picture either. And now after 30 seconds talking with her, I'm like, right, okay, I can totally relate to it because I know so much about it. Nowadays, I'm working in a team where we have people with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, obsessive compulsory disorder, chronic depression, and I'm sure I'm forgetting something. And it's not a specialized company I've worked for people with neurodiversity. It's, I want to say, a coincidence that I work in a very, very neurodivergent team. I'm neurodivergent myself. A few of my family members are. So I live in this neurodiversity bubble. And I realize that this bubble is very tight. We talk a lot about it within each other, but we don't talk enough with people who are out of the bubble. So 2 years ago, I started giving talks, especially to IT crowds about neurodiversity, because I want to break the bubble. I want to make those topics something you can talk at the coffee table after a weekend. I want to make it the norm because so many people, especially in IT, are neurodivergent, but they're still hiding themselves, and that's wrong. We should be able to embrace ourselves and let our qualities be shown instead of doing it the other way around. So that's why I'm here, and that's a bit about my history, and I'm going to try to press this button. Right. So if you have never heard about neurodiversity, there are around 15 to 20 different conditions, and I already named a few of them: ADHD, autism, bipolar disorder, dyslexia, and so on and so on. While if I ask people what is neurodiversity, they name a few of the conditions, but not all of them are as known. And I'm not going to talk about what each of them means, but I just want you to see how big actually is the population. Around 15 to 20% of the world population are neurodivergent, but that's only people who have been diagnosed. Think about the countries who are not running the statistics, especially out of the Western world. Think about people who might not realize that they're neurodivergent. Think about people who cannot afford getting diagnosis because in certain countries there are several years of waiting lists and you need to pay for it. I come luckily from a country where it's free of charge. And I believe that in the tech world, the numbers are very much higher. So there's a high chance that in your teams, there are people who are neurodivergent and you don't know about it. So next time when you go and work with your colleagues, just think that there might be more stories than you're aware of. That's about my statistics. And now I'm curious about your statistics. So I want you to raise your hand if you're neurodivergent, you have a colleague who is neurodivergent, a friend, a family member. If you know any single person in the universe who is neurodivergent, please raise your hand. Okay, there are 2 people not raising their hands, which is approximately the statistics I have every time I ask. It means almost everybody of us knows somebody. And now think about the times you have discussed those topics with people. Sometimes you might be talking about it, but most often it's not the first conversation to talk about because it can feel quite hard. You might not know what to say, and you end up saying nothing because you're afraid of being of saying the wrong thing. Hopefully, after I have talked about it, you feel a bit more brave to start talking about it. And the funny thing is, if you start talking about those, I want to say harder topics, you will notice your team members opening up and talking about them as well. And I have noticed when in the team we talk about it, then afterwards at the coffee corner or in the staircase, some people casually mention this topic as well. And I'm like, yes, everybody else starts talking about it. It's not only me. And then I feel very happy. So what I will be giving you now are a couple of tips what you can do as Agilists and Scrum Masters, product owners, I don't care, as human beings to help your other colleagues thrive in a company and in the world which is not made for neurodivergence. And you will notice that those tips may seem very basic, but I believe that most of the tips to be given in general are very basic. Think of building a lift for a building. It's not there to help only people who are in a wheelchair. It's to help those who are pregnant, those who have mobility issues, those who have broken legs, those who have 20-kilo suitcase because they're going to the airport the next day. So if you make a lift, you're actually helping pretty much everybody. And that's the same with accommodations for people who might need something else. If you help them, you're going to help everybody else as well. So don't think it's only for part of the population. And my tip number 1 is make team agreements. And I'm not going to tell you what kind of team agreements those need to be because those are specific for your team. A lot of people thrive when they have clear agreements which are catered to them. One of my favorite examples is daily stand-ups. Who has been to a daily stand-up where every single day somebody is late? Yeah, quite a few of us. And I'm crazy about time. If something happens at least 1 minute late, I'm already very nervous. I know we started 1 minute late, which so in my mind, it's like only 29 minutes left instead of 30. So daily stand-up, even a few seconds late, I get very nervous. But I know I'm minority, and I have team member who is always late. It doesn't matter what time we make the daily, he'll be always 1 or 2 minutes late. And we have had this conversation for a few times. And he's like, I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to be on time. And If you're not aware, people who have ADHD, a lot of them have this thing called time blindness. They try to get on time, but they just don't have the same feeling of time as neurotypicals. And it's not for everybody with ADHD, but it's just one of the possible symptoms. So at some point I said, you know what, just stop trying, because you're trying very hard. It's actually breaking you. And you're stressing. We are stressing because you are stressed, and it's not actually useful for anybody. So let's come up with a team agreement. What happens when you're late? Does it mean we wait for you 5 minutes and just have a second cup of coffee? Do we just start without you? Do you add an update on Slack? Do we move time to 12 o'clock? Because why does the daily stand-up need to be at 9 o'clock? What do we want to do about it? And actually, for one of the teams I'm working on, we do have stand-up at 12 o'clock because people are just not made to be in the office at 8 o'clock, to be honest. And that works great for the team. Everybody else thinks we're weird, but it works for the team, and that's the most important thing. So make team agreements, what work for the team, what work for the people, and discuss them. And if you are an Agile coach or Scrum Master, be there to represent the team and help when somebody says, no, but the daily stand-up needs to be in the morning. Bullshit. So that's my tip number one. Tip number two is create something, what's called personal manual. Is there anybody who has heard about personal manuals? Awesome, that's a lot of you. So not a lot of new information. But for those who have not heard, personal manual is like a manual you would write for yourself as a human being, like for a washing machine or a computer or some other device. And again, I'm not going to give you any templates because I really think it depends on the company culture, on the team culture, on the things you're struggling with. But create a template, share it in the team, and ask everybody to fill it and share with each other. It's not for you as a Agile coach, Scrum Master, team leader to keep all the manuals and never shares them. No, it's a transparent information, and put their information what's relevant to you. If you are a team working in the office, maybe it's useful to ask, hey, do you want me to just come and ask you a question to your desk, or do you want a message that, can I come right now? Is that a good time? If your company working remotely, can people just call you, or do they need to send a message if they can call you? So figure out what's important for your team, put those questions and ask people to fill it in. And again, it has not a lot to do with neurodivergency only. It's going to help everybody because people want to be approached in a way that's comfortable for them. Probably in my manual will be, don't ask me on Monday morning about my weekend because you really don't care. So let's just get back to the business and ask what you really want to know. And if you want to ask me about the weekend, then let's have a half-an-hour conversation about my weekend because that's a lot of information to share and we need to make sure it's meaningful. So that's kind of information you could be putting in the manuals. If you're looking for templates, Google is full of very nice examples, but again, please don't copy another company, especially as it was mentioned in some talks before about Silicon Valley, for example. If you're not in Silicon Valley, you're not Silicon Valley. Tip number 3 is employee resource groups. Again, who has heard about employee resource groups before? A bit less hands. That's usually a thing in the bigger companies where there are employee-led initiatives. Most of them would be on the topics like women in technology, parents and carers, expats, you name what. But more and more companies are also having employee resource groups about neurodivergency. And you don't need to be in a special role or a special department to start it. All you need is finding a couple of people who are interested in the topic, coming up and deciding what's important for your company and what you want to do. Easy step is saying, hey, we're going to have a monthly half-an-hour chat to figure out what we want to do in the company. And you might start it small with just a couple of colleagues. Then you might decide, hey, we need to promote it on an internal newsletter or whatever else you have in the company. Then you might want to say, hey, we have a monthly walk-ins where everybody can come and ask for questions. And the more you grow, the more you figure out what's really something companies struggling with and what can we, from employee perspective, to bring them. If you do it for several years in a good company which is supporting it, you will notice how much support there is from a company. I used to work at a company called Just Eat Takeaway, which in Poland is known as Pshine, if I pronounce it correctly. And at least in the headquarters in the Netherlands, we had quite a few of those employee resource groups. And they were to a stage that every year we would be given a budget to run the employee resource group. And it was a couple of €1,000. So what we could be doing with that budget is invite internal or external speakers to come and talk about those topics for the whole company. We could be organizing meetups. We could be giving something specific to what people need. And you might think, what kind of things could be useful? So for the neurodiversity resource groups, they managed to lobby together with facilities that if there's a coffee machine next to some people working, there would be a silent, kind of, how would you call it, a silent flip chart, permanent flip chart. So the noise would be less hearable, so it's easier to work. They managed to work with HR and management to say, if you need a noise cancelling headphones, you could order them with no additional charge. In the beginning, whichever department was saying, you can only do it if you have doctor's diagnosis that you have one or another condition. But after more lobbying and convincing, everybody could order it, because not everybody has diagnosis and not everybody is comfortable sharing that information. You could just say, I need it, and the company trusted that you actually need it and would be giving you proper headphones. So those kind of things you could be lobbying if you work in an office. If you're working in remote settings, there might be some other things where people just often want to share information. And you don't need to be neurodivergent yourself to be involved in that group. You could have family members who are neurodivergent, or you could be just interested in the topic and wanting to help your colleagues. So those are the 3 tips I suggest you to start with. There are many more I could be giving, sorry. But I noticed the more information you give, the less information people receive. So I'm starting quite simple. So I have talked for around 15 minutes, and now it's time for you to talk, because I'm not a big talker. So I would like you to turn to the person sitting before, after, next to you, somebody sitting nearby, in the worst case 2 people, and discuss what tips you might be giving to others, what you have noticed in your companies. And we'll be doing that for around 5 minutes. If you're not a big talker, you can also reflect on your own. Okay, let's continue. Sorry for those of you who couldn't finish the conversations. The good news is soon there's a coffee break, so you can feel very free to continue the conversation at the coffee corner. I hope you got some interesting ideas for your from your conversation partner, or maybe some ideas from your own, because the more you talk with others, the more you realize, hey, actually, I have ideas on my own. I just never spent time thinking about them. If you really like this and you think, actually, 5 minutes were not enough, after the lunch, there's a 90-minute workshop where we will be talking more about actionable tips from everybody in the workshop about neurodiversity as well, and focus on 5 of the conditions. So feel free to come to the workshops. There are still a few places left, and somewhere at the entrance, you can register. I'm going to be closing soon, and I want to give you some disclaimers, just so everybody is on the same page. And I wrote them, so I don't forget, but I cannot read so far. So what did I write there? So we have a saying in autism community, when you have met one person with autism, it means you have met one person. Everybody is different. Everybody's symptoms are different as well. And if you have a colleague who has a certain condition, don't think that somebody else with the same condition has the same symptoms, or somebody who has the same symptoms has the same condition. It's very different. So please also don't go back to your office and think now you can diagnose your colleagues because you have heard about it, unless you have a medical degree, which I highly doubt. We are not there to diagnose people, and actually we don't really need to do it. So please don't start asking your colleagues, hey, I think you might have ADHD, is that so? That's not an appropriate question in most of cases. Please avoid it. Somebody asked me in a job interview, are you pregnant? I was not, by the way. Was not a nice conversation. So please avoid it, because you actually don't even need to know if somebody has a certain condition or not. What you need to know is, hey, what are you struggling with? How can I, as a colleague, help you? Is there something what you would need in the office which would make you a better person and easier to work? Those are the questions you should be asking. And it doesn't matter if they have bipolar disorder or not. It matters what those people need to be able to work in the office as efficient as possible. As that's what I wrote. About accommodations, I also told you. And a lot of people have been asking me, hey, can you give me some tips for further reading and what to learn? There is so much, and the information is so diverse that I usually don't do it because it's like asking, hey, I want to learn more about Agile. What can you suggest me? I have 5 more questions to you before I can give you specific tips. So if anybody wants specific information and you don't know where to start, and Googling does not help, feel free to ask me. I'll be happy to give. If you decide to Google, there is loads of wrong information as well. Don't take everything you read seriously, because especially in certain countries, which are very big nowadays and we're not going to name, there is things like saying autism can be caused by vaccination, or autism is actually not a disorder and people should not be able to be in a society, and all other bullshit. So be careful with what you're reading. And if you decide to add me on LinkedIn, because people tend to do it, I might not accept you because I have no idea who you are. So if you want to be accepted, please add a note or come to talk to me. And don't complain afterwards that I'm rude, because I don't accept random stuff. That's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you at the workshop. And don't diagnose people, okay? Thank you very much. Beata, what's next?
Coffee break. So help yourself. And I hope to see you all in 15 or so minutes.